We'll discuss tonight briefly the issue of sitting in the Sukkah on Shemini Atzeres. Just to go back a step, we all know the Torah tells us Sukkahs Teishvu Shivas Yomim, that there's a mitzvah in our Torah to sit in the Sukkah for 7 days, and the Gemara goes into detail. Teishvu Ke'ein Tadiru, that one has to live in the Sukkah like you live in your home. That's why we have an exemption of a mitztayer, someone who's under distress. If it's raining, so then one is exempt from the Sukkah. Interesting, there's another mitzvah similar, which involves yeshiva, that's the Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. The mitzvah of living in Eretz Yisrael, and that also has different exceptions. If you have to be able to live a normal life. If I can't find a wife, I can't find a Rabbi, I can't make a living. So all those things, you're exempt from living in the land of Israel. So similar here, you live a normal type of life, you're supposed to do everything in the Sukkah. Eating, drinking, sleeping. In fact, in theory, you're even more strict on sleeping in the Sukkah than eating in the Sukkah. Eating outside the Sukkah, you're allowed to eat like chips and a drink. But sleeping, the Gemara says, even shinas arai, even temporary sleep, even a little cat nap, that should be done in the Sukkah. So the Torah tells us that's the mitzvah of the Sukkah's Teishu Shiva Shomim. And we all know that afterwards we move into the Yontif of Shemini Atzeres. And in Chutz La'aretz we have Shemini Atzeres and Simchas Torah. In Eretz Yisrael it all happens on the same day. So therefore it's 7 days of Sukkot, and then you go right into Shemini Atzeres. So it's no kasha. You do not sit in the Sukkah in Eretz Yisrael, because else it looks like Baal Tosef, you're adding to the Yontif, it's clear. However, what about in Chutz La'aretz? Because we know we always go with the Sveika Diyoma, a doubt about which day it is. So therefore really it's Safek Shvi, Safek Shemini. Maybe it's not Shemini Atzeres, maybe it's the 7th day of Sukkot. So what should I do? Should I sit in the Sukkah or not? So the Gemara in Sukkah gives 3 opinions. The Gemara covers all the gamut. The Gemara says, yes, one opinion is you should sit in the Sukkah with the bracha. The other opinion is don't sit in the Sukkah at all. So the Gemara concludes, Meisi Yasvinan Bruche Lo Mevarchinan. The Gemara paskins, the Gemara reconciles, we sit in the Sukkah without a bracha. And that's brought down in Shulchan Aruch as well, Meisve Yasvinan Bruche Lo Mevarchinan, that one should sit in the Sukkah without a bracha. In fact, Rav Soloveitchik was very adamant against some minhag among the Hasidim or others who ate outside the Sukkah on Shemini Atzeres. Using his language, he says that's a freak shita. That's a crazy shita. We don't accept it. Everyone has to eat in the Sukkah on Shemini Atzeres. And this parenthetically, the Rav used this to point out, in general, the importance of a bracha. We know really, in halacha, we know the Gemara tells us in Psachim, that usually before you do a mitzvah, you make a bracha over latziyasan. Some brachas you have to make afterwards. Let's say someone is converting in the mikvah, so obviously they can't make the bracha before they go into the mikvah, they're not Jewish, so they make the bracha afterwards. Others on the Tilas Yadayim, on the Tilas Lulav perhaps, because once you pick up the Lulav, Mida'ag Be'nafik, there are exceptions to the rule. but we make a bracha before we do a mitzvah. So what happens if you shook the lulav without a bracha? You ate the matzah without a bracha. So even though I'm not recommending it, and one should make a bracha, but Meikar Adin, you get the mitzvah. Even if I put on tefillin, with the bracha is only d'Rabbanan, and it's only come to give me more kavanah, to prepare me. That's why the Rabbi Yehuda was against the Hineni Muchan Uzuman. People say Hineni Muchan, like many say by Sfiras over, but some say it by all mitzvahs. Hineni Muchan Uzuman Kaya Mitzvah Saseh. He was against the Hasidim who do this because he felt that's what Chazal, in general, he had issues with the Hasidim. Again, when I point that out, today it's a totally different world with the Hasidim and the Litvish. Many have taken on a lot of each, so it's a whole different world today, but during that time, but the Vilna Gaon and the Yehuda, so he felt very strongly against it. So that's what Chazal gave us a bracha rishona for, to prepare for the mitzvah. Let's not make up our own Hineni Muchan Uzuman. So the Yehuda was against it all the time, even for Sfira. In fact, there's a minhag in one of the yeshivas in Brooklyn, I heard, that the Rabbi Yehuda's yard site falls out in the middle of Sfira. So I heard, in deference to the Rabbi Yehuda, on his yard site, they don't say the Hineni Muchan Uzuman that night of Sfira. Interesting. But he's against it. He just says you got but the bottom line is, if you don't make a bracha, you're doing something inappropriate, but does not take away from your fulfillment. You fulfill your mitzvah of matzah, you get your mitzvah of tefillin. So usually brachas aren't, in terms of halacha, isn't an obstacle. However, to many people, bracha is very important. Like to an average balabas, someone who's not so knowledgeable and doesn't know a lot, and even many people who are Yodei Sefer, I find that they're confused with this aspect as well. That a lot of people feel, when I tell someone, well, do it without a bracha, whatever the scenario is, I tell them, okay, do it, but don't. They think, oh, it doesn't really count. They don't really.
Sfira.
Yeah, well, Sfira, right? That's what we discussed. That's where Salavashik Shita is. But I'll get to that in a second by Sfira. But they feel, oh, I have no bracha. Okay, I'm not. It doesn't really count, and then they don't even want to do it. That's what Rav Salavashik spoke about by Sfira. That in general, the halacha is, our minhag is that if you miss a complete day, we don't count with the bracha anymore. And if we miss a night, you remember during the day, we continue the next night with the bracha. And that's based on the bahag, that if you miss a complete day. So Rav Salavashik, again, that's the whole Sfira Omesh here. But he felt, since most opinions disagree with the bahag and say it's 49 separate mitzvahs, even if you miss a day, he was concerned if you tell the balabatim to now count the rest of the Sfira without a bracha, they're going to say, oh, well, it doesn't really count, I'm not going to count at all. And everyone agrees you have to count. So therefore the Rav felt, in some scenarios, it's better for them to count with a bracha than to tell them to count without a bracha, because the concern was that they're not going to count at all. So we probably, in a certain way, it's good. We give more credibility to brachas. We give a lot of chashivas, but sometimes too much chashivas. So that's what the Rabbi pointing out. But that's what he said about Sfira. Because look at Shemini AtzeretRabbi. Look what happens. The Gemara tells us, sit in the Sukkah and don't make a bracha leishe b'Sukkah. And the next thing you know is everyone's eating inside Shemini AtzeretRabbi. So he was very adamant about eating in the Sukkah. That was among most Litvish. There's a Hasidic minhag among many, or among some, that they'll eat in the Sukkah. They won't eat in the Sukkah Shemini AtzeretRabbi. Some, even within that, there's not one. Some won't eat at night, but the day they will, etc. But according to everyone, no one makes a leishe b'Sukkah. We're all in agreement, even us who eat in the Sukkah, Shemini AtzeretRabbi, which is my minhag, we don't make a leishe b'Sukkah because it's a zilzul to Shemini AtzeretRabbi. It can't be Shemini AtzeretRabbi and at the same time making a leishe b'Sukkah. So we don't make a bracha, leishe b'Sukkah, but we do sit in the Sukkah. So the question is there any limud schus Can we find any rationale to explain the minhag of those? And there are those who feel very strongly, and they eat in the sukkah. They eat inside on Shemini Atzeretz. Some make kiddush in the sukkah. They come in many, but just the general minhag of people not eating in the sukkah. So perhaps we can understand it based on the following. With another question. There's a famous question, and it's an obvious question one should ask. So what does the Gemara say? On Sukkot, on Shemini Atzeretz and Chutz La'aretz, we sit in the sukkah, but we don't make a bracha. That's a compromise. Because we're not sure, Safek Shvi, Safek Shmini. So Safek Brachas Lahakel, we're in doubt about the bracha, we go lenient, but we do the mitzvah. So let me ask you, what about lulav? Do we shake lulav on Shemini Atzeretz without a bracha like sukkah? We sit in the sukkah without a bracha on Shemini Atzeretz. What about shaking lulav without a bracha? I would think whatever you do by sukkah, you do by lulav. In fact, the halacha is not that way. As you might well know, we do not shake the lulav on Shemini Atzeretz. So why not? Why, when it comes to the mitzvah of sukkah, we say Yashvi Yashvinam Bruchilom Barachin, you sit in the sukkah, don't make a bracha. Yeah, when it comes to lulav, we don't say shake the daled minim, but don't make a bracha. What's the distinction between the mitzvah of sukkah on one hand versus the mitzvah of the four species? So one can answer simply. Sukkah called Shiva is a mitzvah min Torah. Eating in the sukkah, the whole sukkah is a biblical mitzvah. What about shaking the daled minim? So really, in the mikdash they used to shake kol Shiva, but today, bizman hazeh u'lakachta machem b'yom harishon, we paskin only day one is biblical. The rest of it, we shake daled minim, the four species, for 7 days, but that's only a zeichel of mikdash. That's the way it was done in the Beis HaMikdash. So it's only d'Rabbanan. So if this is true, perhaps we can give an answer. When it comes to Sukkah, Shemini Atzeretz, so we're not sure, is today Shemini Atzeretz, or is today the last day of Sukkot? I don't know. It's a safek. So what is the rule when we have a case of doubt? So the Talmud tells us. Safek d'oraisa l'chumra, a doubt regarding a biblical law with strict on. Safek d'Rabbanan l'kula, a doubt regarding a rabbinic law we're lenient on. So they have a sukkah is biblical, so therefore sit in the sukkah without a bracha, because the bracha is only rabbinical. But lulav anyway on the 7th day of Sukkot is only rabbinical, so safek d'Rabbanan l'kula. So perhaps a simple reason, perhaps what's the difference? We don't shake lulav because lulav is only d'Rabbanan on day 7, so therefore we could be lenient in the case of doubt. But sukkah is biblical, so therefore we have to be strict. That's what I would have said, but Tosfos gives a different answer. Tosfos says, you know what the difference is? I'll tell you the difference. Let's say, he says a lulav, there's no need to shake a lulav on Shemini Atzeretz. The only reason you shake a lulav on Shemini Atzeretz is because you want to fulfill your mitzvah of lulav. There's no other reason, unless you're cleaning your ceiling, like there's no other reason to be shaking lulav. However, Tosfos says, people like sitting outside in a nice hut, it's a nice day, Palm, it's a nice day, and during Sukkot, during Shemini Atzeretz, you want to sit outside anyway. So Tosfos says as follows, says, when it comes to shaking lulav on Shemini Atzeretz, it's recognizable. The only reason you're shaking lulav is because you want to fulfill your mitzvah of lulav. That's Baal Tosef. That's adding another day of daled minim, and therefore that you can't do. But sitting in the sukkah day 8, there's no Baal Tosef. because it's not recognizable I'm doing it. Maybe I'd be sitting sometimes I sit outside, eat outside even when it's not Sukkot. So so the fact that I sit in the Sukkah, that itself isn't in a blatant contradiction. That's why I could say, as I mentioned Shemini Atzeret in my Kiddush, I could be sitting in the Sukkah because the Sukkah could be incidental. So therefore that's what Tosaf says. Shaking lulav, it's clear why you're doing it. That's Baal Tosaf. We know you can't shake lulav 8 days. But Sukkah, it's not recognizable. I could be sitting in Sukkah because I like eating it outside, so therefore that's why on Sukkot I eat in the Sukkah without a bracha, but it's not recognizable I'm doing it l'shem Sukkah. Even though I'm doing it because of doubt, but it's not the act itself isn't recognizable. No one knows what I'm thinking. But by lulav it'd be Baal Tosaf, therefore you can't do it. So based on this is the famous Karban Nesanel. Maybe one of the most famous Karban Nesanels. In the back, he says, if this is true, maybe we can explain the minhag of eating inside Shemini Atzeret. So when is that true? That sometimes you'll eat outside. That's if it's nice weather. You live in a warm climate in Florida, California. But if you live in different places, now this year at least it's earlier, maybe you have a better shot at it. But next year it's going to be mid to end of October. It's going to be Shemini Atzeret. So therefore it's going to be cold by then. It could even be snowing. But so it'll be a time where people do not sit outside. So they want to claim is that if one lives in a cold climate, and they did in Europe, and you sit outside in the Sukkah, then it's like lulav. No person in their right mind sits outside in the Sukkah when it's freezing outside. There must be the only reason you're doing it is because you want to fulfill your mitzvah of Sukkah. Then it's no different than lulav, and therefore it's Baal Tosaf. Hence the minhag developed that you don't eat outside on Shemini Atzeret because else you could be in violation of Baal Tosaf. So that could be the reason for the minhag of those who, there are other people who bring down, that's the best reason I like. Others bring down other reasons, perhaps how the minhag began, people eating inside on Shemini Atzeret. But the bottom line is, if you have, speak to your local Rav or whoever in terms of what maybe if you have your minhag, you keep it. But the straight psak and Shulchan Aruch and the minhag of Rov Klal Yisrael is to sit in the Sukkah on Shemini Atzeret without a bracha. And it's different than no lulav on Shemini Atzeret either because lulav is only d'Rabbanan on Shiva, or according to the Karban Nesanel or others because it's recognizable, according to Tosaf, because it's recognizable that you're adding to the Torah. You're adding another day of lulav. When it comes to Sukkah, one is not recognizable. It could be warm outside, maybe I'd be eating outside anyway. And therefore, to conclude, like the Gemara says, Meis v'yasvinan, bruchi lo mevarchinan. So we sit in the Sukkah without a bracha on Shemini Atzeret.